This is episode 404 of Alohomora for June 15th, 2024. Welcome to another episode of Alohomora, the fandom's original Harry Potter book club. I'm Josh Cook.
I'm Geoff Hutton.
And I'm Kat Miller, and I have the pleasure today of introducing you to our next community guest for this block of summer episodes. We're so excited to have her here. It's our friend Suzanne, and all of you out there just may know her as SugarSpunQuills on Instagram. Hello, hello.
Yay!
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Tell our listeners a bit about yourself, your Harry Potter journey, all that jazz.
Yeah, so my name's Suzanne. I was sorted into Ravenclaw. I'm from London, England, and I pretty much grew up with Harry Potter. So it was 97 when the first book came out. So I think I was like 7 or 8 years old. So I read the first book, fell in love, and then the film came out, fell even more in love, and COVID hit in 2020. I think. I can't even remember now. It's been so long since. But I think it was the second lockdown we had here. And I was in a bit of a sad mode. And I thought to myself, you know what? Let's make a Harry Potter Instagram account. And I've never looked back. So it's brought me here today.
Amazing, amazing. Do you have a favorite book or favorite character or anything like that?
Yeah, so my favourite book has to be Prisoner of Azkaban.
Okay.
And
Classic.
yeah, and I think it has to be my favourite film as well. And I also quite like Half-Blood Prince as a film.
Take that, Patrick.
Yes. And
We just did our commentary for Prisoner of Azkaban, and Patrick gave us a lovely sermon about why he thinks it's the worst film.
Nah, it's such a good film.
so good. And I love that you appreciate the Half-Blood Prince film because I also love it.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a standalone film, it is a terrible adaptation, but as a film, just like a standalone film, it's a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
welcome to the very,
notes.
very, very tiny club.
Yay!
I had no notes for the film until I read the book and said, okay, now wait a minute. I still think it's a good film. Not a
It's a great
perfect
film.
but it's a very good film, yes.
It's a good
agreed.
clumsy film.
Yes. It just has a lot of heart and it's funny and it's great.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're not here to chat about the Half-Blood Prince film. That is, I don't know, a year and a half.
Or the
down
Prisoner of
line.
Azkaban film.
Right, which we just did.
We are here to chat about Deathly Hallows Chapter 27, The Final Hiding Place, which I am very excited about. I love the Deathly Hallows books, and once everything's starting to come together here at the end, really excited to get into this discussion. We originally talked about this chapter on episode 178, called Adorably Convenient, which I don't remember why it was called that. I didn't listen closely enough this past time, but anyway, that is from February 20th, 2016, with Kat, Eric, and Allison, with guest Sylvia on that episode. So, listeners, as you get a chance, please go back and listen to that episode as well.
It's clearly called that because Eric and Allison and myself are on it, and we are all adorable.
Adorably,
Right?
Are you adorably
That is correct.
convenient?
Adorable and
Sure.
convenient.
There you go. There you go. That's the one. All right. Well, let's hop into today's chapter with a tiny little summary because this is a short chapter. They did it. Harry, Ron, and Hermione escaped from Gringotts relatively unscathed and one Horcrux heavier. The trio travel on the back of the bedraggled, beaten dragon deeper into the Scottish Highlands, eventually sliding off into brain-numbingly cold water, making their way to the shore. They ponder what to do next, and oh, what perfect timing! Harry gets a Voldy vision, and the plan is laid out at their feet. It is off to Hogwarts. They go. And I'll tell you, I could not write that line without thinking of The Wizard of Oz. And last night, when I did this, I wrote like half of a song parody. They're off to see the wizard. I'm not going to sing it here.
Just
but
send me the
just
rest
telling
of the
you.
words and I'll do it. I've got plenty of these parodies already. Also,
There you
Did
go.
you say relatively unscathed? They took a scalding hot treasure bath, and now they have to take an Essence of Dittany shower to kind of counteract
Yeah, I mean,
that. I don't
they're
know if
alive.
I'd call that
It's
unscathed.
I just love that the bar for relatively unscathed is, are you alive or are you dead?
I mean, with Harry,
they
that
didn't have
is
any
the
major
bar.
injuries. Yeah, they
That's
didn't have any
true.
major injuries. They only had to use Dittany for like scratches and scrapes and things. Nobody broke a bone. They didn't have to episky anything. Yeah, so I feel like that's pretty on the scale of how scathed they could have been. They're on the relatively unscathed end, right?
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that then. For them, they are unscathed. Objectively, perhaps not, but considering what they've been through, sure.
Relatively unscathed. That you have to have the relatively there because they're not completely unscathed.
I mean, at least Harry is in the same mindset of relatively unscathed. I mean, he comes out on the back of the dragon with this overwhelming feeling of gratitude. So I mean, I guess Kat would be right. I mean,
yeah, that's right.
If he wasn't feeling this gratitude for the escape, he would probably be scathed.
Well, and I wrote that quote in the doc here because I wanted to talk about the second half of it where he says, this is Harry thinking to himself, Harry's overwhelming feeling, or sorry, this is the narrator. Harry's overwhelming feeling was a gratitude for an escape that seemed impossible. And yeah, like that was a pretty impossible escape. I know the answer is plot, but like nobody else would have ever been able to pull that off.
You're right.
Ever.
Absolutely. This is where I love getting on the backlash of Gryffindor's going to Gryffindor, but there's not another house that's jumping on the back of that dragon and flying out of there.
Well, how many other houses are being given the opportunity?
Okay, this isn't an equity discussion. If we're talking equity at Hogwarts, I got nothing. I can't defend our house. But I mean, this isn't the first time that Harry is able to talk about his escapes. I do like the symmetry here of earlier in the series, Lucius talks about Harry and his escaping abilities almost snake-like. And then here we are. We escaped in the this is the final escape essentially of the series. Is it? Is it the final escape? Yeah, because it's what
I would call the final escape. Yeah, because it got me thinking
then in
about
this final escape. We're back to a reptilian discussion of scales and that kind of stuff. I liked pulling that together with what Lucius had said earlier in the series.
See, it got me thinking about all the other times they've had to escape, and people might agree or disagree about what actually constitutes an escape, but in this book alone, by my count, they have had to escape 7 times. And I think this is actually the most risky and dangerous of their escapes. So follow me on this for a second. So in 7th place, I put when they escaped from the Lovegoods. There were 2 Death Eaters. They were barely in any immediate danger because Xenophilius Lovegood was in more danger than they were. Above that, I'd put their escape from Godric's Hollow because there were no wizards, no spells apart from what Hermione used. And yes, Nagini almost strangled Harry, but as soon as Hermione got upstairs and figured out what was going on, they got away relatively fast. In 5th place, I'd put the wedding and then the subsequent escape from the cafe. I count that as one because they were one immediately after the other. When they escaped from the wedding, they were pretty, I think, evenly matched. It was the element of surprise that made it dangerous, but they had a lot of people with wands against a lot of other people with wands. And then once they were in the cafe, again, they were taken by surprise, but considering they were up against 2 Death Eaters, I feel like they held their own really well. In 4th place, I put the escape from Malfoy Manor. They were pretty banged up. They didn't really have their wands. If it hadn't been for Dobby, I don't think they would have gotten out of it. And Hermione had just been tortured to the point that, by all accounts, she's usually the one saving their butts, and she was incapacitated. So that was, I'd say, squarely in the middle. Number 3, I'd say their escape from the Ministry. They were surrounded by Dementors, Yaxley was chasing after them, and since the Ministry had been taken over by Death Eaters, they were in one of the worst case scenarios for trying to actually get out. They were in what was supposed to be a secure place trying to get out of it. In second place, I put the escape from Privet Drive. They were, I think, outnumbered by Death Eaters. They were flying up in the air. Voldemort joined the fray eventually. They lose Mad Eye Moody, and there's probably killing curses flying all over the place. But this, I would say, is the riskiest and most dangerous. They have just gotten out of a scalding hot treasure bath. If this dragon had not been here, there's no way they would have gotten out of this because they were miles and miles underground and they were outnumbered. They don't know this dragon. This dragon is not somebody that they really, frankly, should trust, but it's their only option. So they climb on his back, unsecured, fly up in the sky. They don't know where this dragon is going to drop them off at. They even, I think, at one point discussed the possibility that the dragon might decide to eat them. So they really don't have a plan as far as, okay, we're on the back of a dragon flying away. What do we do now? Do we drop off and hope we land someplace soft? Do we know how to stop ourselves from falling and breaking all our bones? Because Harry did that earlier in the book. He fell and broke like 3 different parts of himself, and then somebody else put him right again. But I don't know that they could necessarily do that to themselves if this happened. So there you have it. There's my case. 7 escapes. This one's the riskiest and most dangerous.